Whoever believes in me shall never die. Believe in me, and you will see the glory of God.
I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring them out of Egypt.
But how can I set them free?
I will be with you.
We talked about the goodness of God. I guess that was 2 years ago. We took 4 weeks to talk about the goodness of God. By the way, it's still the most important theme in the whole world, because there's so much that your eyes can see that lead you to a different conclusion. And if by faith you understand his very nature is to do everything good, everything, it changes the way you see difficulty. It changes the way you see a relationship. If you see him for you, it makes all the difference in the world. So, at this age, who cares ultimately whether or not are interested in what I have to say? I am a violin player who plays on one string. And I happily say that. I think this great theme of the goodness of God touches every other theme in the world. So there are messages I could preach for 1,000 years and never exhaust the scripture. And today I would like to show you how Jesus not only fits into the theme of the goodness of God, but of course is the star of the show. I'd like to talk about the Christ-centered life. And there's another 1,000 messages coming on the Christ-centered life. But there's a verse that I can't get out of my head. Before you put any verses back there, a little quiz. I won't give you the whole verse because that would be too easy for you. But I'll just share the last part of this verse. It goes like this. And the life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Who said it? Paul said it. Where's it found? Who said Galatians? Give that person a new car. Good. Isn't that something? And the life I now live in the flesh or the body, I live by faith in the Son of God. Loved me and gave himself for me, for you. Wait and see how important this verse becomes all through your life. It's really something. I memorized it when I was just a kid. Never dreamed the central place it fills in all of life, in all of living. So I want to use that verse 1,000 times this morning, but I want it to be a springboard. And so I want to give you the thesis of what I want to say through that verse. Here's my thesis today. The way you think about God shapes the way you think about yourself. The way you think about God shapes the way you think about yourself. Do you know I could reverse that, by the way? And it still works that way too. The way I think about myself shapes the way I think about God. How do you think about God? Da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da, da-da. How do you think about God? It's really a very important question. It's a very important question. I'm not asking if you have all the answers. I'm not asking if your theology is correct. I'm not even asking you if you've been a Christian for 20 or 30 years. But it has become more important than ever to me to realize that Christians can really hardly ever think good thoughts about God as they relate to that man or woman. Let me just tell you, it's very interesting. We stop in Aurora, Nebraska every time we drive from Arizona. 2,000 miles is so much fun every year. Get to see lots of pretty places. But on the way home, we visit some old friends, soulmates of us. Sometimes they invite a group of people that we pastored there 45 years ago. How do you like that? Where were you 45 years ago? I'd like to know. In any case, it was fun. But let me just tell you, a few days ago, people that we knew 45 years ago got together for a little supper. One of them, a guy by the name of Bill, took us out to the barn to see his $200,000 tractors. Amazing what farming costs these days. But while he was out there, he started to talk about what happened with his son, an adult son in his 40s, who he's turning the farm over to. His name is Ty, and Ty did something wrong. He forgot to do something that his dad said, you've got to do this, and if you don't do this, we're in trouble. Ty said, of course, I'll do it. And he didn't, and there was a big problem. And this guy, Bill, got so angry, this profanity came out of his mouth. He cursed his son with every word in whatever the book is. And while he's doing it, he's already sick about himself, thinking, I do this every time something goes wrong. All my life, anger has just destroyed me. And then he thought, and God is holy. He must hate me all the time. And then after we got in there, into the house, one of our good friends from way back, a guy by the name of John, starts talking about the fact that he has made such terrible mistakes in his life. This John is such a kind, gentle man. Now he's 80 years old. But he talks about the day that he ran over his son with his car when he was a little boy. The first day that we got to Aurora, Nebraska, all of his life he wanted that son to take over his farm. He made some difficult choices, some bad choices when he became international harvester dealer and put his farm up for collateral and lost his farm. And therefore his son was denied the opportunity to be what he always wanted, a farmer. He became a missionary instead, however, just want you to know. And then their wife, Elaine, what a sweetheart, been a school teacher all of her life. Her dad died when she was just a kid. And it was a very difficult childhood, and she began to develop all kinds of fears. And out of that, she says, boy, I have been haunted by fear all my life. So we found ourselves saying, boy, this is really something. Three of the stalwarts of our church, evangelical Free Church in Aurora. And yet, if all you heard, if that represented kind of the dominant way of thinking year after year after year after year, one guy tormented by anger. By the way, who's tormented by anger here? Good, but you wouldn't raise your hand anyhow, I know. And who spends a lot of time just in the world of regrets? And every time you get in your car, you're thinking about something you did 20 years ago. How awful! Wouldn't that be a terrible way to live? Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Anybody here have regrets? And then as far as fear, it's a pretty scary world out there, huh? If you wanted to, you could be afraid all the time. But as I think of the subject, tell you about these, let me tell you about the most important thing of all in relationships. Let me tell you about my son, David. I've probably told you I have two sons. Rick is a preacher in California, and David is on the East Coast, works for an advertising company, and David is gay. And so have we ever been on an amazing ride with David? I still remember the day he told us that we were gay. He was a graduate of Moody Bible Institute and everything. And wow, took a long walk a few weeks later up here at the cottage, and I said, David, you know, I may never understand what's going on, but I just want you to know I'm your dad, and I promise you this, I will love you with the fullness of my heart as long as I live, and there's nothing that you can ever do to change that.